What's good, YouTube? We back at it again. This time we want to get real deep. We're not going to talk about any news. We're not going to talk about any fights. This segment is going to be about racism and boxing. Now, we all know that boxing is one of the most passionate sports when it comes to a fan sticking up for his fighter, his favorite fighter or her favorite fighter of the same race. We see a lot of racial slurs on YouTube or racial comments. We see a lot of people saying, I'm only going for this guy because he's Mexican, because he's black. Nothing wrong with that, right? But it just shows, it's a testament to how much racism plays in boxing. Unfortunately, it can also lead to everything that is wrong with boxing. We see a lot of fighters who need to be recognized because they're one of the greats in the sport currently and in our history, but they are not recognized the way that they need to be. We stemmed this segment off of what Jean Pascal said about Sergey Kovalev last week, where he's actually using this fight, this rematch. He's using this racism thing that he believes Kovalev is a part of as motivation to beat the shit out of him, basically. You know what I'm saying? What do you guys feel about racism in the sport? And give us a little bit of examples of the racism that y'all have encountered while, being enthusiasts and talking to casuals, things of that nature, boxing forums. Give me some examples, Seth.
It's definitely alive and well in the sport of boxing. It's I think it's a little bit deeper in boxing because it's such a competitive and such a combative sport. And there's a really, really, really strong sense of pride. But at the end of the day, man, a lot of it, sadly, it turns into ignorance. Yeah. A lot of fans hate for a particular fighter to lose if he's from their culture. And the only way that they know how to express it is just through ignorance, through racial slurs, and but furthermore, the sport itself has had a lot of racism in it, just in terms of the guys who talk about it. When you have guys like Jim Lampley, Larry Merchant, a lot of the guys from the HBO telecast, man, they come off as being blindly prejudiced, or one could even say blindly racist. Yep. It's almost as if they don't see what they're doing, or they don't realize what they're doing, but there's a definite agenda behind a lot of the shit that they say and a lot of the shit that they propagate and just put out there. One example would be in the James Kirtland fight, where Jim Lampley was screaming for James Kirtland to get ghetto.
Oh yeah, James Kirkland.
And it's just shit like that, man. To where, what does that have to do with the sport? What does that have to do with James Kirtland finding that extra,
motivation?
Motivation to dig down and bring out this victory. Right. There was also another incident where Jim Lampley was watching the Barrera versus Prince Nassim Hamed, and after that ass whooping, he said, "I bet Allah knows Barrera," and it's shit like that, man. That's just absolutely distasteful.
That's racial undertones, man.
Yeah.
That's the one that made George Foreman lose it. Like, whoa.
Oh yeah. There you go, Bo. And George Foreman came out, and George Foreman's not a Muslim, but he came out because he knew it was wrong, and he stopped him and he said, "Hey, whoa, I don't think you like him too much, Jim. I think you have something personal against this guy."
Yep.
So that's the one thing about it, man. And the fans, the casual fans, they're just on a whole nother level. You hear the N-word tossed around, you hear guys being called wetbacks and the Mexicans calling the black guys niggers, and it's just a lot of fuckery that goes on in and outside of the sport. And it's sad that, like I said, fans don't have the knowledge to be able to hold, you know, really good conversations and debates about who's the best fighter at this particular time or at that particular time. You know, I see a lot of fans talk a lot of shit about Floyd Mayweather when Manny Pacquiao was the same exact guy that Floyd is. Pacquiao was the same way. It just wasn't thrown in the media. You know, Pacquiao was a womanizer. He admitted to cheating on his wife. He gambled. He drank. He smoked. He did all of these things.
Yep.
You know, and people were extremely forgiving of Manny Pacquiao when he repented and, you know, did all of this crusade as a Christian and all of that. And so, man, it kind of sucks, you know, because I think the fans want to like certain guys, but because of what they hear from certain commentators, it kind of validates a lot of their own hidden ignorance, you know, and they feel justified in feeling a certain type of way when in reality it's absolutely and just totally wrong.
Bo?
The sport of boxing has had racism in it going all the way back to the old master Gans.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we can go back. It had not just racism, it has had corruption with mob ties of fixing fights.
Oh yeah.
Fixing rankings. The today fans, and I like to call them the YouTube watching highlight fans, who probably started watching boxing in 2010, and you know, all of a sudden now they have all this knowledge. Well, you can't tell me, like for instance, you take a guy like Floyd Mayweather, and before y'all start saying why y'all using Floyd, because he's the prime example.
Yes.
You take a guy like Floyd, and if you are not saying that you like him, but you're praising some of the things you see him do in his attributes. If you tell me he's never fought a fight in his prime, and I name Diego Corrales, and I name Manfredi, and I name, you know, Ricky Hadno, or Emmanuel Augustus, then you want to call me, oh, you just like him because he's black. No, wait a minute. That ain't had nothing to do with it. I'm breaking down the man's resume to you.
Sir.
Because you told me he didn't fight nobody young.
Yes,
okay?
Sir.
When you look at, like you said about Manny Pacquiao, it took you, which is funny to me, it takes people to go all the way to the extreme of worse. Then you find God. Well, nigga, you supposed to have been found fucking God.
Word.
Shit.
Yeah.
I mean, why you gotta wait to do all this? Oh, I have to find Jesus now. No, you should have been knew who Jesus was.
Yeah.
It shouldn't take you to fuck up to find God.
Yeah.
You know, that's like that kid who, that's like if you don't go to church, then you want something, you drop to your knees. Oh Lord, please let me have. You know, it's funny to me. And then if you really look at it, he didn't even thank God after he got his ass whooped from Floyd Mayweather.
No, he didn't.
He didn't even say, and they didn't call him on that. Like, Floyd fights him, he says he hurts his shoulder, and I heard Max Kellerman, who I had high regards for, say, well, blame the Nevada State Commission for a clerical error. But that same Max Kellerman criticized Bradley for talking about how he hurt his leg.
Yeah.
Okay? And you shouldn't use that as an excuse. You know, look at Triple G. He has an Apple commercial. Floyd has been in boxing for, I mean, Andre Ward is the exact opposite of Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
Andre Ward is married. Andre Ward is, he's a father.
Yeah.
Andre Ward, he speaks very, very well.
His nickname
He
is
gets
Son
him-
of God, for God's sakes.
And
Son
people
of
go
God.
SOB. They take the G
Yeah.
off and call him SOB. What has Andre Ward done to make you guys say you hate him because, why? He wants to fight Triple G? Because he wants to prove that, hey, you all must have forgotten about me, but okay, y'all think he's the man? Put him in there with me. Let's find out.
Yeah.
That's all he's done. It's boxing. There's so much stuff we hear, and some of it is guilt by association. I had somebody say to me the other day, Al Heyman is a cancer on the sport. I gave him my Scooby-Doo face. Like, I mean, are you for real? Look at what Al Heyman has done for boxing, and you got to see fighters. Adrian Broner, AB, I call him always belligerent, but okay, fine. I know he likes to play, but Adrian Broner was on I think that's Bounce TV,
Okay.
and he was commentating. He was very intelligent, and I say, you know what? My hat's off to them dudes at PBC because they're all professionals. Like Al Heyman has got these guys to be professionals, but you hate Al Heyman, but then Bob Arum has lawsuits against him. Bob Arum's got cats sitting out. That you know, because of what's going on with him.
Mikey
He's been
Garcia.
he's been investigated by Congress. But yet Al Heyman, who ain't have none of that,
no problem.
And you want to throw at me? Okay, well Beyonce suing him, really? I mean, you
what
reaching.
does that got to do with boxing?
Right, but I mean, but when you say that, you're reaching. You're really reaching when you say that to me. So, racism has been a part of boxing for all so long. I don't think it's going to change, but what I do want to say is, I think it's because the tone of boxing has changed because they want you to pick a side.
Right.
You're either here or you're there, and if you're not with me, then fuck you, and this is what you fall under.
Right.
Okay. And as far as the situation with Pasquale, I think it's false anger because Kovalev put that shit up before he beat your ass the first time.
Oh yeah.
So your motivation shouldn't be him using nothing racial. Your motivation should be the fact that he beat your ass.
Exactly.
And definitely for me, my thing with Kovalev is, ladies and gentlemen, put your personal feelings aside. Put however you feel aside. Ask yourself one question: does the nigga not look like a monkey he's talking about?
Look just like him. Look just
I
like
mean, if
like
he
Donkey
looks like a
Kong.
monkey,
Donkey
and we
Kong,
know
nigga.
he's talking about one dude. He didn't say all blacks. He talking about one guy. Ask yourself: does a nigga look like a monkey?
Yeah.
And if he does, laugh that shit off and push it on.
And move on.
Yeah,
I mean,
go ahead, Tuga.
Well, all I was gonna say was hold your thought, B. I was just gonna talk about a lot of the double standards in the sport. I mean, on my other channel, man, I did a 3-part video on Gennady Golovkin, all facts, no opinions, right? I broke down like his last 15 fights. I can't fucking remember. This is before David Lemieux, right? And I talked about why this guy does not deserve a shot. At the time, he was saying he wants Floyd Mayweather, and Andre Ward wanted to fight him at the time. I was saying why he doesn't deserve a shot against Floyd Mayweather, and why Andre Ward is not a guy that he should duck, basically. It's a guy that he needs to be looking at trying to fight. He needs to take that challenge. And it was all facts. I did not one time call Gennady Golovkin out of his name. I did not one time call him a cracker or anything racist. I did not one time say anything opinionated. I broke down his fucking career. Then I broke down the careers of all the fighters that he fought. And it turns out that his resume is shit, right? The first thing I got on my fucking video was, oh, admit it, you don't like him because he's white. So I created a list of white fighters. Lee Selby, Carl Frampton, Scott Quigg, George Groves, Thomas Oosthuizen, Sergey Kovalev. Do I need to keep fucking going? These are all white fighters in the sport today that I actually like. So just because I'm a black man and I call out a white fighter for his flaws, that makes me instantly fucking racist, right? But when Jim Lampley and HBO blackball Guillermo Rigondeaux for winning the biggest fight of his career, he beats the 2012 fighter of the fucking year, right? And the fight wasn't boring. Shit, Guillermo Rigondeaux got knocked down, got back up, and continued to whoop his motherfucking ass, right? So we can't say the fight was boring, because it wasn't.
Yep.
Why the fuck are they blackballing him? Why is it that after a career-defining fight with only, at the time, 11 fights, right? A career-defining fight, a fight that is supposed to catapult you in the rankings and supposed to catapult you with the networks, with them wanting to buy your next fucking fights and air them, right? Why is it that in his next fight he's fighting in fucking Japan or China or some shit, untelevised? Why is it that Bob Arum is no longer promoting him even though he's still signed to his banner, right?
Yep.
This is some complete motherfucking bullshit. They did not do that to Lomachenko, right? They did not do that to Gennady Golovkin when he's fought nothing but C-level fighters, right? They did not do that to Sergey Kovalev after he beat C-level fighters like Blake Caparello, mind you, a fight that he got knocked down in against a C-level fighter.
Mm-hmm.
They did not do that when he beat Cedric Agnew, when he beat Nathan Cleverly, right? Nathan Cleverly was his career-defining fight, but Nathan Cleverly, respective in his division, was not on the same level as a Nonito Donaire.
Mm-hmm.
Nathan Cleverly was not fighter of the fucking year. He was known as a B-level fighter with a paper title, right?
Yeah.
He was a paper champion. Not a paper title, but a paper champion. He should have never had the belt, right? That's why Kovalev, a no-name guy, went in there and got the shit easily. Oh, but he's just thrown all over HBO after that shit. But Guillermo Rigondeaux's blackballed. Why is it, and this is my last point, I'll go back to you, Seth, remember your thought, B. Why is it that when Floyd Mayweather, right, gives in to all the demands for Oscar De La Hoya, does everything Oscar De La Hoya asks him to do and more, right? Goes in there, wins a split decision, right? However you motherfuckers saw it, he still won the fight, right? Gets invited to HBO, a segment that Jim Lampley was doing. Wasn't the Fight Game at the time. That shit wasn't out yet. He was just doing his own segment at the time. And on the same segment, they have Oscar De La Hoya on television. Why is it that Jim Lampley is ridiculing Floyd Mayweather in front of on national television in front of millions of fucking viewers, basically saying, oh, this guy is not the guy we wanted to win. He's not the right role model for our children. Oscar De La Hoya is the real winner here. He is the real guy we need to follow. But he didn't win the fucking fight. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, yeah. Nah, I agree with everything you just said. I was actually going to touch on a point earlier that Bo made about the Pascal Kovalev fight and how, he was talking about Kovalev's comments toward Adonis Stevenson. And I was going to say the one thing about that fight that I really don't like, and I really felt that this was going to be the case. I said that Pascal was going to use this not as motivation, but as he was going to use this for media attention. And earlier in the day, I actually watched an interview with him, and he was really using this as a way to build the fight up. Well, hey, Kovalev said this, so watch me, whoop his ass because this is what he said. And it was just a point that I just really didn't agree with. I don't like Pascal using this as motivation because it's a very serious topic, and if you're gonna put a guy out there, you need to do it in a better way. Like we said earlier, and we've said in other videos with this topic of Kovalev and Pascal, if you were gonna use it as motivation, you should have did it the first time.
Right.
Exactly. But back to the point on the video. This is something, man, that, like I said, it definitely exists, and I would love for fans, enthusiasts, and casuals to be able to admit it, and just say, hey, you know what? This does exist. We don't need this shit in the sport. Nobody's telling anybody to not have a sense of pride, to represent the guy. I'm sorry, to cheer for the guy that's representing your country. Right. We all want that. We all. I mean, that's what makes the sport graceful in its own right. Is these guys are representing tens and thousands of fans. Who don't have the ability to do what they're doing. So absolutely, cheer for these guys. I cheer for these guys. But at the end of the day, I would never disrespect somebody and call them out of their race or call them out of their country because I'm doing bad in the debate, but there are plenty of fighters, and I've made this point so many times to people. The thing with guys like Jim Lampley and Larry Merchant, it's not that they don't know the sport of boxing. They've been around the sport for years. They know the ins and outs of this sport. They know a lot about the sport. It's the agenda and the undertone that these guys are actually trying to push. For example, I remember when Kelly Pavlik became the middleweight champion, right?
Yes.
And I can remember Larry Merchant being so high on Kelly Pavlik.
He was.
Kelly Pavlik had slow feet. He had absolutely no defense, and he was a standing target to be just beat the shit out of. Kelly Pavlik in his personal life outside the ring, the same life that everybody judges Floyd Mayweather for, his personal life outside the ring, Kelly Pavlik was a raging alcoholic.
Yes,
it was one of the reasons why he fucked his career up was because of his tendency to be an uncontrollable drinker.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
HBO never said
cared
anything
that
about
shit.
it. They never talked about it. He was their great white hype. He was their or great white hope. You know, and even though the guy lacked the athleticism, they would mask it and cover it up because he had a very good right hand and he had a really good jab. Yeah. And it wasn't that I didn't like Kelly Powell, it was just that I didn't like that Jim Lampley and Larry Mercer would never bring these things to the forefront. You know, they would let him off the hook with everything he did. I was actually reading some comments from some guys that was from Youngstown, and they said that Powell was an asshole. You know, and that he had actually had a couple bar fights.
Yeah, he did.
You know, he did. Yeah.
And you know, it just sucks to have a professional boxer, somebody whose hands are considered a weapon.
Yeah.
To be fighting guys in bars, you know, because he's pissy fucking drunk. It sucks even more that you know, HBO and these guys who talk so highly of him won't try to put this out in the forefront. And the reason why that sucks is because sometimes, man, and it seems bad to say, but sometimes that's a way to get a guy help.
Yeah.
Is to shed some lights on some of the problems, some of the demons that he has. You know, it forces him to look at himself, and it forces him to seek, you know, further guidance and to seek help. But that's the thing about a lot of fighters, man, who aren't, you know, who aren't minorities, you know, or who let's just say what it is, who aren't black fighters. You know, they get this pass. I've heard things about Canelo in Mexico, you know, and
he has a kid that nobody wants to talk about.
That, you know, nobody talks about, you know, and some of the things that Canelo has done in Mexico, you know, some fights that he's had outside of clubs in Mexico. They don't talk about it, you know, because he's their shining star. But when Floyd Mayweather, you know, goes out and he goes to a strip club, you know, Jim Lamp, when he was with HBO, you know, and you could tell he was kind of leaving, you know, they would point out the bullshit, you know, even more now, you know, that he's not with HBO. You know, it's just bashing. When they do mention him, they're bashing him, you know, or, you know, they just never really pay homage to the brilliance of a lot of these fighters. I remember when Bernard Hopkins beat Kelly Powell, and he was standing and looking at the people in the front row as to say, what? You know, you guys denied me, and I came in the ring and I did this. And for the longest, when Bernard was active, Jim Lampley and Larry Merchant never gave him his props.
Yep.
You know, they always had something to say about his fighting style. They always had something to say about him. But Kelly Powell, who probably couldn't hold Bernard's fucking jockstrap, they would praise him for everything he did. You know, so there's a lot of racism, prejudice, and just downright bias. You know, a lot of racial bias exists in boxing, and you know, like I said, it sucks.
Hey, Bo, let me make this point real quick. I'm gonna go right to you. Hold that thought, man.
Go ahead.
One thing that wasn't mentioned was the fact that ESPN did an entire segment on Floyd Mayweather's domestic violence cases, but we've had guys who are white in professional sports who have been arrested or have been sued for the same thing, and they're not talked about. One of them being our very own Jim Lampley.
Yes, sir.
I mean, Marv Albert is now the host, one of the commentators anyway, for PBC events. He's another guy. I mean, Marv Albert was literally smacking hoes and shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he's just straight up. My man was a certified motherfucking
Grand Theft Auto and shit.
You know, straight up. He was a certified motherfucking pimp. You know what I'm saying? And he never denied it. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with Jim Lampley. I mean, we got in UFC, we got Travis Brown. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. All these people are white, but ESPN does not jump immediately to their situations and start. I mean, there was like a fucking hour and a half segment on Floyd Mayweather right before the Manny Pacquiao fight, right? Ironically, right before the Manny Pacquiao fight, right? Where he was gonna make the most money, more money than any boxer has ever even fucking dreamed of, right? As a black man, and they want to ridicule him for some shit that happened months ago, probably even a year ago. You know what I'm saying? And it was aired for about an hour and a half on ESPN right before that fight. Fucking amazing to me, man. Go ahead, Bo.
I was finna say, to your point about the double standard, there's also a bit of hypocrisy in it too.
Oh, yeah.
You had everybody behind Miss Ronda Rousey when she was bashing Floyd. But if you look at the UFC, they have more abuse cases in the UFC
Absolutely.
than any sport.
Yeah.
So you ain't gotta look to Floyd. Turn your ass around and look at the guys behind you. But you don't want to do that. And then the hypocrisy of it is everybody wanted to boycott Floyd's fight, but yet you wanted everybody's, oh, I'll pay to see Ronda fight Floyd. What?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
When Ray Rice had that situation he had, and I'm going to speak on this, it was everywhere. But when guys like Ben Roethlisberger had 2 counts of fucking rape cases on him, he is still fucking playing. When Brett Favre, the great Brett Favre, have sexual harassment shit on him, but then you want to bring up Isaiah Thomas's problems? It's like, just like with Floyd. I told somebody, I said, do you realize all the Floyd troubles, all the shit he got into was when he was under the HBO flagship?
Yeah.
And they don't say shit about it until he left. Okay? Oscar De La Hoya. This the same cat, the golden boy, the boy next door. Oscar De La Hoya, he was a womanizer. I tell people, you don't want to play that game with me. You want to play that game with me. We sit down, we go through the list of all these motherfuckers you like, and I bet you I will hurt your feelings with the shit I tell you about.
Absolutely.
Okay? You know, I love like Diego Corrales. I love Diego Corrales.
He
but
beat
Diego
shit out of his
Corrales
wife.
beat his pregnant motherfucking wife.
Yep.
Okay, let's keep it real. It wasn't just anything. It was his pregnant motherfucking wife he beat. Jake LaMotta used to beat his goddamn wife and had sex with a 13-year-old. All right? Yeah, watch the movie Raging Bull. He was arrested for having sex with a 13-year-old.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, right, it's in the movie. So it's like, listen, I don't have a problem if you want to put it out there for everybody, on everybody, then that's fine, because I say it all the time. Facts and truth don't play favorites. Just like you said, if we sit here and we bash Deontay Wilder, everybody gonna say we fucking geniuses. But we sit here, we bash 3G, we don't know what the fuck we talking about.
Yeah.
And we're not bashing him. All we saying is, we just want to see him we want to see him. And I told somebody, listen, I'm not bashing 3G. I just want to see him finally fight somebody worthy of the accolades he's fucking getting. You got Roman Gonzalez. How ironic that Roman Gonzalez, who happens to be with Golden Boy, is all of a sudden getting all his attention, being ranked #1 by Ring TV, okay? He ain't really beat nobody, but he's done something so great that he's above Andre fucking Ward? Are you serious? I mean, you know, you got like, and then when you talk to these fans, they use that double talk. Okay, well, Andre Ward is inactive. He just fought. So now that he's back fighting, do we not? So what you saying? We just take away his resume? His resume don't change. Do we take away his resume? Okay. Manny Pacquiao lost to Floyd. He's still ranked #3 by ESPN. And somebody told me, well, losing to Floyd don't hurt you. Shit. When has losing never hurted you?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry. I thought losing hurted you. Exactly. You know, I thought when you lost, it knocks you down a peg or two. Yep. But, you know, like you touching about Guillermo Rigondeaux, everybody clowned him. Jim Lampton was on his case in his fight. But Vladimir Klitschko laid a fucking egg, and Jim Lampton was... And they was real calm in their demeanor, how they talked about it. But I think the upside to it is, I think we are starting to see somewhat of a change, because I think the numbers from the pay-per-views are starting to reflect that maybe some people just are starting to get tired of the tone a little bit. You know, because the numbers of pay-per-view, they had some change in management. But, you know, to tell me all that racism in boxing, and the sad thing is, like you mentioned, you don't bring up the man's color. You just bring up his resume and you break it down. But then they bring up the color aspect of it. And I'm like, wait a minute. When did color become an issue? I thought we was talking boxing. You know? Right, you know what I'm saying? When you bring up the color, like I said, go back and look at earlier videos. Go back and look at earlier tapes and other comments. There are guys, we were high on 3G. I took up for 3G and said, hey, Sergio Martinez is fucking ducking you. Yeah. We said last week, Peter Quillen dumped the belt because he didn't want to fight you.
He's still
we
ducking
said
that
this
nigga.
shit. Right, and we said that shit. But when I break down his resume, where I say this is what I think he should go, oh, you don't know what the fuck you talking about.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're not gonna please these dudes, but we know when there's that undertone of what you say, you know, and how you say it, because again, Floyd Mayweather picks, you know, the IV situation with Floyd Mayweather was everywhere. ESPN has yet to do ESPN First Take has yet to do anything about Manny Pacquiao and that fucking saltwater comment. I've yet to hear them say nothing about that comment.
Yeah.
You know? So don't tell me ain't no racism and double standard in boxing. Dudes get away with it, and we know what it is.
Yeah.
You know, we got to do it 3 times is better. Like I said, ESPN Skip Bayless killed me. You ridicule LeBron James, but Tim Tebow, who is unfucking proven, is like this, like really?
The second coming.
He said he's the best quarterback.
And if you look at boxing, throughout boxing, there's always been the need to find the great white hope. You had Clooney.
Yep.
You had Webner.
Yeah.
You know, now they, like you said,
Tommy Morrison.
Now they looking, huh? Yeah, Tommy Morrison.
Morrison.
Now they even looking at the European cats. They, like you said, Lomachenko, Kovalev. Bernard Hopkins said it best. He said, I think my chase for history isn't being talked about because I'm black. And when he said it, that's when he got a fucking article in ESPN.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anything you need to add, Sus?
Well, no, I was just gonna say, man. You know, you look at it, and I've heard fans talk about the technical brilliance, as well as Jim Lampley and Larry Marshall. I heard them talk about the technical brilliance of a Lomachenko, but they shun the technical brilliance of a Guillermo Rigondeaux.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've to your point, Bo, about the hypocrisy. I heard Ronda Rousey talking shit about Floyd Mayweather and his domestic violence cases, but she's dating a guy who has who was in trouble for domestic violence.
Travis Brown,
right. Exactly. You know, she fights in an organization, you know, or in mixed martial arts, and they have some of the highest domestic violence numbers of any sport.
Or like when she says she hopes Floyd Mayweather can one day be like Mike Tyson. Yeah, well, I bet you Robin Givens and Desiree Washington will have a thing or two to say to you about
it. Absolutely. And then, you know, you got the Michael Vick situation that involves dogs. A lot of people wouldn't feed a stray dog if they had a piece of fucking wax fruit in their hand. You know, they can give a shit about a stray dog. But you know, when it involves Michael Vick, and you know, and you hear about these things, the guy has served his time already. People still hate this guy. You know, they still protest against this guy. But then you got Ben Roethlisberger, who was accused of rape 2 times. You know, but I don't see anybody talking about him. I remember a wide receiver named Matt Jones. They used to play for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I remember him playing in college. Man, I thought he was going to be pretty good. The dude ran a 4.3 in the 40, but he could not leave the drugs alone. He got busted for cocaine so many times, until the league, who didn't put it out in the media, you know, it just so happened to come to the light because he got pulled over for it, and they found him in possession of it. But the NFL said nothing about it. They swept it under the rug more than one time. You know, but you got guys like Greg Hardy, you know, Adrian Peterson, Ray Rice, who they just bash, you know, for doing certain things. It's just horrible, man. You know, it makes no sense.
To your point about Michael Vick, they had him answer all of these questions and everything like that after that situation happened with him. But Riley Cooper was allowed to go home until the heat dried the fuck off.
Oh yeah.
Riley Cooper they didn't put him in front of no camera.
I'll beat the shit out of all these niggers.
Right, they let this motherfucker walk out the locker room, go home, and chill till the heat went off.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
All right, fellas. All right, I just want to say one more thing before we end this segment. We're a little bit over time. Shout out to 78. I saw this on his video about Conor McGregor saying that he would beat the shit out of Jesus Christ. Just ask yourself, people. What if Floyd Mayweather would have said something like that? What if
anybody black?
What if? Yeah, I mean that's the point. But what if Andre Ward, Guillermo Rigondeaux, would have said something like that? Even remote, they would have said something remotely like, "I'll beat the shit out of Joseph." Not even Jesus. I'll beat the shit out of Moses. they would crucify these motherfuckers.
Yep.
Conor McGregor gets a pass.
Yes, sir.
Do what you do in the comment section, people. Be real, no bullshit. This is real talk for real fans. 1.